or else you're sexist.
Wow.
I was kind of hoping that would be the start of the podcast.
I think it might have been live at that point, but we're definitely live right now.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 5 of Bona Fide Talk. Welcome over, you guys. Good to have you guys back. Good to be back with the boys. We've got our co-host today, Cameron Campbell. We've got Blake Manzer. We have Brian Edwards. We have, last and certainly least, Garrett Lusk. The 4 men, founding fathers of this above average, maybe below average podcast. Speaking of that,
I would say medium average.
maybe. We're all just really good at being average. Speaking of that, we continue to appreciate and welcome your feedback, both good and bad. So holler at us, let us know what we can do better and what you guys want to hear, and we'll take it in. Guys, how are y'all doing? Everybody good?
Doing great.
I'm doing swell.
So, you alcoholics, go ahead and let me in on what you guys are drinking today on the podcast. As you know, we like to do a little segment as we get started called "What You Drinking On Over There." Cameron, what you drinking on over there?
I'm drinking on a little Sweetwater Extra Pale Ale 420. So, I mean, I don't know too much about it, but I really dig it. It's good.
Cameron, it's so fitting that
you
you of all people is drinking. It's so fitting that you of all people is drinking a beer called Extra Pale. So fitting.
Yeah, makes sense after the last.
Get outside in the sun, bro.
I do go out in the outside in the sun.
Hey, just
brother.
don't ghost us
Blake.
this time.
My specialty.
All right, I'm drinking on the old Bud Light Seltzer Lemon Lime. Here, let me cut this reflection down.
Bruh.
I would argue that that's the new.
Yeah, that's not old.
Oh, the new Bud Light Seltzer Lemon Lime. There we go. Nice.
The worst beverage I've ever put into my mouth in my entire existence is the Bud Light Seltzer Strawberry, and that's not a hot take.
Really?
It's the worst thing I've ever put into my mouth.
Oh, Brian.
Never. I've never had the Bud Light Seltzer yet.
It's pretty good.
My new favorite seltzer since we had the little talk about the seltzers, the Truly lemonade seltzers. Those are top notch. The black ones, yeah, they're really good. And
Yeah.
1 gram of added sugar, so still pretty solid.
I just like sticking with the Bud Light because it makes me feel slightly more masculine drinking a seltzer, just coming from a brand like Bud Light.
Well, there's zero logic there, Blake. So,
you know, that's how most of my mind plays out.
Yeah, I can tell.
Oh, where'd Garrett go?
Pretty easy to tell. Oh, come back, Garrett.
Buddy.
He'll be back any second now.
Hopefully. Oh, there we go.
Heck yeah, there he is. We have some technical difficulty today, it seems like.
Talk. We didn't have some technical difficulty. Brian, what are you drinking on?
Yeah, I'm Old Faithful. Some Creature Comforts.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Is that the Classic City Lager or the Bebo?
The Bebo today.
Oh, okay.
People, let me know if you've ever heard this sound before.
Oh, wow.
Or Miller Lite tonight.
ASMR.
That was such an alpha sound.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's quite a fine Pilsner you got there.
The show. All right. Got member of the family. Where is that little sucker?
Little rascal.
Where's that little shit?
Oh.
All right, guys. So,
stepped in poop.
I'm going to let you tell the story. Can you find him?
Yep, he's just chilling on the Xbox. I feel bad for waking him up because now he's gonna start attacking
there he
everything.
is.
Here we got
man of the hour.
We got little Tuxie.
What's Tux?
Tux. So Tux is a stray cat I found. Here, I'm gonna sit you down. Tux is a stray cat that I found outside my apartment Saturday. So here's the story of how I found him. So I woke up just like making coffee, just waking up for the day, and I get a knock on my door. I'm like, what the hell? Nobody needs me. Who's knocking on my door? And so I open it up, and it's one of my neighbors from below, and there's a cat next to her. and she's like, "Hey, is this your cat? He's been clawing outside everyone's door all night and meowing." And I'm like, "No, I don't have a cat. I've never seen that cat in my life." So she's like, "Okay, well, whatever." So then I just like closed my door, went about my day, played a little Xbox. I think I was either playing with you, Garrett, or talking to Cameron or someone for a little while, and then I decided to go on a run a little bit later, and and the cat was still just chilling there on the steps. And I was thinking, so I've been wanting a cat for a little while, and he was just sitting there, and I had already seen a cat get run over in my apartment complex, so I didn't. I didn't want that to happen to this cat, or have him starve or get eaten. So I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I'll take him in, try to find the owner at least, and if not, I'll probably just keep him.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Amazing story.
he's been chilling with me the past couple of days. He's a good cat. He's pretty funny. He's got a good personality. When he's not chewing on my cables or scratching up my furniture, he's just sleeping on my Xbox over here.
And
Sick, yeah.
He's got a cool personality, man.
You were saying how easy cats are, chewing up your cables and scratching up your furniture.
It's not that bad.
Jesus.
He's a kitten. Hey, he doesn't.
At least you don't.
He doesn't shit in the house.
Not yet.
Fair enough.
At least you don't have to walk him on a leash and throw the ball to him. He's listening to that.
Right.
Tell the audience about how what the first thing you did was when you got the cat. Cats usually don't like.
Yeah. So I didn't know where this cat came from or what sort of possible diseases it had. So I got some Dawn dish soap and gave it a little sink bath immediately after getting it, and he did not like it. I don't know if you guys on camera can see it, but he acted a little bit better than I thought he would. I thought he was gonna like just freak out, start meowing, trying to bite me and stuff, but he just didn't like being in the water. That was about it. But once I started soaping him up, getting him clean, he kind of calmed down. And then he hid from me for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it sounds like he's coming around to you. And then tell everyone one more time why you decided to name him Tux. Him or her.
Yeah. I actually still don't know if it's a guy or a girl. Yeah, but so I think it's a tuxedo cat. I was looking up some pictures, and he doesn't really match any distinct breed that I could find. But the closest, he's black and white, and he's got like a little black stripe on his chin. So he looks the closest to a tuxedo cat. I thought Tux was a good name.
Yeah.
So he's Tux for now.
Awesome, man.
I approve.
I might name it Tuxan if I find out it's a girl.
Need to get him or her a podcast mic. Get him or her on the pod sometime soon. Love it. Awesome. Well, yeah, no, that was a big development over the weekend. We all played Xbox late into the night on Saturday night, and let's just say we had some very inappropriate jokes from Anzer that we will not repeat here on air.
No,
but
let's not.
Had a lot of fun talking about Tux. Seems like a cool cat, man. People hate on cats, and I'm not a huge cat guy. Like, I wouldn't call myself a cat guy. I don't know about you guys, but there's nothing better than a cool cat.
Yeah,
a cool cat. Cool cats are fun, man. They just,
a cool dog
lounge around.
A cool cat, but
well, yeah, no, 100%. But like, a cool cat is cool, man.
Well, that's the thing about cats is they're so hit or miss. Like, what you don't want is a cat that's like mean, won't let you pet it or pick it up. And
right.
You also don't want a cat that's just scared of everything and always hides. You want a cat that's more dog-like, I guess, something that's friendly, something that sits in your lap, lets you pet it. Plus, they kill all your household rodents. So
just get a dog.
I plan on it. I will eventually, and I'll have my own farm going.
We love the development. There's another development, boys. We were actually just talking about this before we went live on air, but kind of reiterating on a conversation we had a couple weeks ago. Guys, get close to uninstalling my Call of Duty a game on Xbox. Talk me out of it.
Don't do it.
Talk me off the ledge here.
No, do it.
Yeah,
uninstall it.
No.
Dude, I was having an awesome day, and we were like 30 minutes from getting on the pod, so I was looking to kill some time. I hop on and I play a couple games, and I'm like, getting all pissed off and anxious and like wound up. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm having such a good day. And then I came out of my Call of Duty. Like, oh my God. I don't know, guys. I'm getting pretty close to just saying F it all and getting off the box. Talk me off the ledge.
I think you should just take a little break, let your senses cool down, and let the COD juices simmer down a bit in your blood, and fire it back up next weekend.
Or you could erase it and download Halo Master Chief.
Ooh, I already got Halo Master Chief, so I'll see you guys on that.
Cameron? I don't know.
Well, my Xbox has been broken for 2 weeks, so you said we were all playing the other night. I wasn't playing, and I like taking a break from Xbox. I miss it sometimes, but I definitely don't miss Call of Duty. Like when I miss playing games, I miss like Forza Horizon and some racing games. As you can see, I like motorsports. I like the cars, and that's what I miss doing on Xbox. But yeah, these past 2 weeks without the Xbox has been kind of nice. Been just doing other things with my time.
Yeah, man. So, speaking of that, Cameron, what the audience doesn't know is how successful that we've been here at BFT over the last couple weeks, here into our 5th episode now. And Cameron's just bragging to the audience how successful he's been.
Yeah, we're making,
with our BFT experience. Why don't you tell?
We're making
the audience
about
what your background is.
Huge bucks. My background is all the cars I bought with just the BFT money that's rolling in off the sponsorships and all the ads. Each one of these cars is just straight from BFT. So thank you guys for supporting.
One car per episode.
Keep watching, keep sharing. Yeah, I think it's like 2 per episode, but who's counting?
What's actually going on behind you?
What's actually going on behind me is the driving club at Road Atlanta. My dad's a co-owner, and I was hanging out here. We got a member day tomorrow, so people will come out and drive their cars. These owners that actually own these will come out and drive them tomorrow at Road Atlanta. And I was just sweeping, and then we had to do the podcast, so I just set up a little table here and posted up in front of these sweet cars.
So does Road Atlanta own any of the cars at the track, or are those all owned by members at the track?
They're all owned by members. These are people's personal cars. They look like race cars, but they're legitimately just personal cars.
Huh.
They're personal cars, but some of them do get raced, like this one right behind me here. It's got numbers on it and stuff. It's been in races before, but some guy just owns this. And same with the rest of them down here. These are all track prepped, high performance sports cars / supercars.
Huh. You say the majority is Porsche.
Huh?
Right. You would say the majority is Porsche, right? I think I see like a Lamborghini.
Yeah, I'm looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 Porsches in this garage right now. A Lamborghini, BMW, and a Radical, which is a track specific car. You don't take that on the road.
Radical.
Nice.
Go on.
Yeah, pretty radical, bro.
Go on.
Y'all want to see it?
Pick one.
Oh, damn.
There it is. Oh, pick one?
Pick one.
I would like to be able to drive it on the road, honestly. So I'd go for the most road ready one.
Okay.
Which, as a shocker, the most road ready car in here is that GT2 RS, which is like the most high powered track focused Porsche that they make production wise for the street. But it's still a street car. Everything else in here is for the track. So I'd take that so I could drive it out on the street.
That's funny.
I agree.
Dude, awesome. Well, it looks good. Again, keep subscribing and dropping 5-star comments on our page so that Cameron can fund his car addiction. We appreciate all the funds that have been coming in for our listeners.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to 3 per
that's
episode.
Funny. Love it. Yeah. Oh man, love it. All right, guys. I have a quick announcement. Y'all ready for this?
Go for it.
Big week. This last week, boys. Sports are back. Listeners, sports are back. Live sports, baby. They're back and they're doing pretty well. MLB, baseball, NBA, the bubble is back. Don't really watch hockey, but it's back. So sports back, guys. If you were bored over the last few months without debate and without things to watch during the day, on the weekends, whatever, are back. So been following the Braves. Braves been doing really well. Baseball's had a few outbreaks, COVID outbreaks, but pretty good so far. NBA in the bubble, so things are okay there. Haven't really been following that much, but it's refreshing to have sports back on TV to watch. Any thoughts, guys?
I agree. Yeah, it brings some semblance of normalcy back into what's been a hectic year.
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
not so
just
normal in baseball. Real quick, in baseball, it's not so normal when the coach or the manager wants to yell at the ref, and the ref tells him to like put a mask on, the umpire, and he's like, it needs to be socially distanced, like he can't get in his face, like managers typically do. That happened this week, and he was like, you need to get back and put a mask on. So I think that's hilarious.
That's been fun. You definitely, like, in the NBA and the MLB specifically, you can hear all of the smack talk on the court or on the field. Like, it's pretty funny. Like, they pump in fake crowd noise to like normalize the environment for the players. It's not loud enough to where you can still hear like the dugouts talking smack across the field. You've got like pitchers talking to players. Like you said, managers are talking. Like, pretty fun environment. NBA, same thing. Like, you hear pretty much everything on the court. But guys, I just thought about this. So in baseball, what they've done to try to normalize the environment is they've done cut out like cardboard fixtures into the seats behind home plate and up first and third base line. I looked into this. I was curious. So I looked on the Braves website, and guess how much it is to get one cutout into the stadium?
$100.
I'm gonna go 150.
$50. Boys,
$50
should our
bucks?
first BFT investment getting a picture of us into a cutout?
That would be hilarious.
But it's not a face;
how
it's
awesome
just the
would-
BFT logo.
Yeah, what if we loaded up Tux, put a Braves hat on Tux, send it in, pay $50, put him out in the outfield, and what if someone makes a homer and like nails him in the face?
Oh,
It'd be great publicity for the boys.
Let's do
It'd be
it.
great
dude.
publicity.
$50. That's not
Like,
bad.
the internet would go nuts.
I think that would be
Let's do it.
hilarious.
That might boost our clout from one car for
just-
camera in a podcast to about 10.
Yes, I'll definitely get the 3. That's for sure.
No,
Hell yeah.
Cameron, use instead of your car money per episode, just use it to fill the stadium with Bona Fide Talks posters.
Okay,
Get that stadium filled.
let's do it.
Love it. All right, guys. Well,
It might be a monopoly, though, which I think we're about to get into, some
Hopefully.
antitrust.
Yeah.
Brian, why don't you kick us off there then? Nice transition.
That was
Yeah,
beautiful,
so
Brian.
rolling into that, first off, we kind of have an overarching theme to this episode this week. We thought it would be good just to keep our conversation kind of grounded and like mind. So we're going over some health and wealth and health, whichever you want to say. And so kicking off with the wealth portion, we're going to talk about big tech in Congress this week. So for those that haven't seen the big four, is what they're kind of now calling them, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Google, all 4 have been in Congress this week for some antitrust discussions. So essentially, after some light reading, a lot, if not all of these companies have been taken to grounds with antitrust things. So essentially, they've been buying up smaller, like fast-growing competitors before they can reach a size to where they can be a real competitor. So they've essentially just have been becoming monopolies and buying up all the smaller guys to where the competition can't rise to their level, and they're just becoming these 4 big giants.
Right.
Yeah.
That's basically what my take was. And if you go back over like the past decade and whatnot, and we all know technology rises exponentially. However, these 4 have been the biggest players since, the original tech bubble, I guess you would call it, of the early 2000s. So it's been kind of interesting seeing them just, stay dominant year after year, and just how many, the sheer volume of acquisitions they go through in a calendar year. And it's just, I don't know, it's bringing to light some of the antitrust stuff that really hasn't been enacted on too much since like the 70s, I think I've read. So it's just kind of bringing up questions, and it's kind of an interesting discussion piece, especially with how interconnected our lives are with technology now. I mean, you can get your groceries on Amazon. You can really order any housing need online now. Like, there's not a huge incentive to go to stores unless you just need to have it right away. So I think it's kind of interesting.
So, guys, what was y'all's takeaway from the actual congressional meeting? Like Brian was just talking about, the big four guys. You got Jeff Bezos from Amazon. You've got Zuck from Facebook, Tim Cook from Apple, and then Sundar Pichai, I think is how you pronounce it, from Google. Pichai, thank you. So they got grilled by Congress via webcast. Some technical difficulties there as well. That makes me feel better about our podcast. Anyway, so what were y'all's takeaways as far as like progress that was made from the Congress? What were the discussions? What were they like? What were some just like key takeaways from this congressional hearing?
So I know the whole hearing was about 6.5 hours, which I didn't take the time to sit down and watch all that. So most of my information came from just reading articles, watching some clips from the hearing, and getting other people's take on it. But it was definitely an interesting thing to happen in today's culture. So as Brian was kind of mentioned, most of the discussion revolved around the fact that, the idea that these companies are getting too big and that they're essentially stifling competition. So some examples, you've got, so a lot of the discussion revolved around Facebook buying up Instagram several years ago, and now obviously Instagram is huge, as we all know. Google, an example of their plethora of massive companies, but Fitbit is something that they fairly recently acquired for a couple $1 billion. And then for obviously we all know how big Amazon and Apple are, with Amazon kind of stifling the retail market out of business. So yeah, a lot of the conversation centered around the fact that these companies are getting too big and that maybe they need to be broken up, because like Brian said, smaller companies are having trouble competing. And what's especially interesting is the fact that while the rest of the world is suffering during this pandemic economically, all these companies are making just stupid profits. I'm overlaying a little article right now. The headline is examining Apple's record-breaking $59.7 billion June quarter. So that's just one example of, and all these companies have just been booming ever since this outbreak hit. Largely because they're tech companies, and as everything shifts from real world interactions to online, that's where these companies thrive. They're all online businesses. So yeah, so that's where most of the discussion seemed to revolve around, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the topic. But what was a little disheartening. So I think obviously I think competition is good for the market. That's how you get better products. That's how that's how innovation progresses. And I think this is an important thing to happen. Put these companies under the magnifying glass. See what they can do to better the economy. But as we've seen in the past with some of these tech hearings that happened last year and in more recent months, is the senators grilling them, quote unquote, for those of you who aren't watching the video, they don't really know what they're talking about. They're all older people who didn't grow up in the internet age. They probably all have an iPhone, but I bet their sons and daughters tell them how to use it they don't really know what they're talking about. So Brian, we were talking about an example the other day where Facebook was getting accused for something that happened on Twitter, and Mark Zuckerberg had to correct the guy. He's like, "Sir, that interaction happened on Twitter, not our platform." So like these guys, it's I guess it's kind of hard to overcome because most of Congress is so old. But it's just it's kind of disheartening to see what could cause such big change just kind of fall flat on its face with kind of the incompetence and ignorance of these congressional members.
Yeah. And there's one word you said there that like just drives it home. The incompetence of, we all know like senators are normally very older, wealthier gentlemen that have been in politics for some time now, and they've made it to that level. Probably, I don't have the rough statistics, but you probably between 60 and 70, maybe even some 80. Whereas, when you have 4 tech companies of such magnitude that make up such a large part of, like the S&P 500, and then also interconnect and, do business with other companies that also make up the same index, which is the primary driver for your economy, which the economy is like the number one indicator for the most part of how a nation is doing. It's just kind of a little ridiculous that somebody in that position wouldn't know the difference between Twitter and Facebook, It's a little bit like,
yeah, like, did you
why
do your
are
research?
you in your position if you're not educated? Yeah. Or at least somebody below you that's supposed to report to you and tell you what to say and stuff. Like,
these guys are supposed to be our representatives, but the question is how well they're representing us.
How can they? Yeah.
Cameron, any specific takeaways?
No, I think they hit a lot of the stuff, some of the odd things, senators not knowing what they're talking about. And they are older. I feel like they should have younger staffers around them that should help them put this together and figure out what they're going to say before they go out there and make a fool of themselves. But then another thing on the conservative side. So this is about antitrust, right? And these companies being too big. Another big problem with tech recently has been censorship and on the conservative side. And that's what a lot of them are in there trying to talk about. They're trying to talk about big tech censorship when that really has nothing to do with what the trial is about or what the hearing is about. And it's kind of absurd. It just plays along those party lines. I'm a conservative, so that's what we care about when it comes to big tech. It's like, no, there's these basics that we all care about. We don't want these companies to be too big and to shut down the smaller businesses or threaten to buy them out or shut them down like completely. That was one of the accusations that some of the senators were throwing at them, was that not only are they just buying them up, if somebody is not wanting to sell initially, then they'll threaten them with, oh, well, we're working on technology already like yours. We already have something like Instagram that we're working on. And, if you don't sell, then, we're just going to put all our money into that and make it work. And then there won't be an Instagram.
Yeah.
So
and to
that was one of the
exactly,
accusations.
Yeah, I have an excerpt from this article. So I'll read this paragraph real quickly. And then this is titled "The Big Tech Hearing Proved Congress Isn't Messing Around," blah, 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 whatever. But the good takeaway here is it took the lawmakers an oddly long time to get Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos, who was giving his very first congressional testimony. But once they did, they landed some of their hardest hits. They presented internal emails showing that in 2009, the company deliberately began selling diapers at a loss in order to price diapers.com out of the market and force the company to accept a takeover, after which Amazon raised diaper prices back up. One email boldly declared that these guys are our number one short-term competitor. We need to match pricing on these guys no matter what the cost. The documents revealed that Amazon was willing to lose up to $200 million to execute this takeover strategy. And it
Wow.
says temporarily selling products at a loss in order to drive out the competition is illegal. Go figure. But thought that was really interesting. Just kind of, concrete evidence of your point right there.
Yeah, I
They
don't
can
think
just
that's
price
the
people
only.
out.
I don't think that's the only example of them doing that either. I know early
Definitely.
on, Amazon was. They started out as a book selling company, and early on they were criticized for. Oh, we lost Brian. They were criticized for doing exactly just that, lowering the prices of their books, so that other book selling companies who had greater cost to overcome just couldn't keep up. Pricing them out of the market, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome points, guys. Y'all nailed it. The things that we really want to hit on were, senators' incompetence, truly how big these companies are. And Cameron, like you mentioned with censorship, I think that's the real key topic here. We're going to save that discussion, though, for a future date because that's coming down the pipe. That's something that we're definitely going to discuss on a future podcast.
Okay,
Couple of
Boomer.
my key takeaways. Sir, couple of my key takeaways here. First off, how salty do you think Jack Dorsey are that they weren't included in this? After
He's not part of the
specifically
club.
being mentioned. Yeah, right. Like you got to think Bill Gates, Microsoft. You got to think Jack Dorsey and Twitter. Like those guys had to be pretty salty they weren't included, right?
I think
don't
they're
know.
glad.
They're probably happy
Maybe.
about it.
True. It's almost like not being allowed to sit at the lunch table, but
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway, so as far as big tech goes, guys, I really kind of struggle with what side of the aisle I sit on here. My biggest concern, definitely with the big tech guys, is down to censorship, which is like Cameron mentioned, we're going to talk about that more at a future date. But the way I look at it is this, right? So, sports analogy, obviously, because I'm the sports guy here. So, you've got Golden State Warriors, right? A couple years ago, they built up this huge super team. They had Kevin Durant, they had Curry, they had Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, all these guys, right? It seemed like all the free agents were going there. It seemed like they were going to take over this foreseeable future, right? NBA had a choice where they could have disassembled the team. They could have taken away a couple players if they truly wanted to, or they could just let it ride, right? My thing is this. I would not support the NBA taking away players from that team to dissemble how powerful the Golden State Warriors were. Like, the way I look at this is like, I don't fully know if government should step in to dissemble or break up these big tech companies because I just don't think that's the right thing to do. I do understand that there's like competitive forces there or competitive concerns there to where like smaller companies aren't able to compete. But at the end of the day, I do think the market will decide going forward the success of these companies. Obviously, it is concerning that we're dealing with a mega crisis right now, and it seems like these big four, big six fan companies are really driving the earnings right now. Nasdaq is up higher than it's ever been, which is the index that governs the big tech stocks. So it's hard. It's hard, but at the end of the day, though, the other thing that I want to bring up is how hypocritical is it for us as consumers to tap on Amazon, and probably 70-80% of us have a Prime account and order a lot of stuff on there. How crappy is it for us to sit here and talk down on Facebook when every one of us has a Facebook account and Google when we probably are using Chrome right now as our browser, right? It's just a little bit hypocritical where we come at these companies and say, oh, you're too big. At the same time, we are benefiting from their products, right? So I do think that there is a responsibility on the consumer where if you don't like the company, if you don't like what they stand for, I think they're too big. And the best way to defense that is not to ask the government to say, hey, break them up. It's to use the power of the wallet and not use services. Obviously, there's a major censorship concern. There's consumer data that's being tracked by these guys, tracking your every move. They know where you're going. They know where you've been. They know what you want. They know what you don't want. I absolutely understand that. But I don't side on the side of the aisle to where the government's always the answer. Just don't. I believe in the capital free market. I believe in the power of the wallet. I believe in the power of the consumer. And I just think that's my major takeaway. And then finally, you guys have any takeaways real quick before I hit up my final point on this?
Yeah, no, I do.
Kind of
definitely.
a rebuttal.
Okay,
Go
let's hear
for
it.
it, Brian.
Well, I would, and I can't say this is exactly the case for Amazon, but if you go and look in, for example, pharmaceuticals, say a company has a particular IP for a product, let's say the EpiPen, and they start charging, $650, $700 for it, and essentially are price setting. And I'm not saying Amazon has any IP that, another one of them doesn't, but at that point, I do think it's necessary for the government to come in, whereas that directly affects the stakeholders of that company, being the people that need EpiPens no matter what. And if they have the IP and are the sole owner and provider of that, something needs to happen there, because
Right.
that has been the takeover strategy for multiple pharmaceuticals and dirty money, and just to where they go in, they cut all the R&D out, they take the existing product, raise the price 10, 20, 30, 50x, and just say, hey, we're the only ones. You want it? No? All right, well, sorry. That would be my only argument.
Cameron?
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, I'm not for that either as far as government.
Did we lose Cameron? Hey, are you guys there?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Sorry, technical difficulty. Are we good, guys? Did we lose
Am I
Cameron?
back?
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, we all cut out for a little bit right there. We're good.
We're all good though? Okay.
Yeah.
What was
the
I
government.
saying? Yeah, the government's not all the answer. Just one example is just like healthcare. I don't think, government universal healthcare is the answer, but I do think part of the government's duty is to prevent these unethical business practices. So I think that's the big thing is unethical. So if a business is being ethical and doing everything how they should be, and not trying to screw anybody over or use malicious strategies to make their own market gains, then I think that's fine. But if they're using these unethical practices and strategies, then that is the government's position to step in there. I mean, that's the same thing that happened in the past with other industries, nearly 100 years ago and in the past century. So that's the big thing is what they're doing to gain the power and to gain the market share. How they're doing it really matters. And I think that's one thing that we need to focus on.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good point there, Cameron. Brian, just some final rebuttal. You talked about the EpiPen epidemic that was a few months back. I don't know if that was earlier this year or what, but obviously that was a major concern where you had the company that provided the EpiPens boosting the prices on that. Major concern. I don't think that's a direct correlation, though, to me ordering deodorant and iPhone adapters on Amazon Prime for 2-day delivery, right? Like, I could live without my Amazon Prime account, etc. The point I'm trying to drive home is hypocritical for a consumer who uses the products of these major, like Big 4, Big 6 tech companies, to also cry about how powerful that they are when they could make a step in trying to fix the problem with their wallet, not paying for the Amazon Prime account, switching your browser from Google, not having an iPhone, etc. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying just be wary of that whenever you're discussing these concepts. And we'll continue to talk about this in the future. Like, we're going to talk about censorship. Big tech obviously is very important right now. We've had a couple episodes talking about it as Tux is going to chime in. But
that's a good point.
Major takeaways.
I have a little bit to say to that, actually, just about like some of the hypocritical stuff we see from like consumerism. And one of those is like, I mean, I hear it all the time, and like the environmental issues, climate crisis, quote unquote. And then like a boomer will say, well, yeah, but you're tweeting that from your iPhone, which was made by slaves. And it's like, Yeah, I have an iPhone. We all have technology. We all benefit from slave labor at this point, but we all are also against slave labor. And I don't think the ethics get pushed on to the consumer. I think the ethics will stand with the company and the business and the corporation, the dead entity that is a corporation. They handle the ethics, and as consumers we should be weary of all that's going on, but at the end of the day we got to spend our money and do what's most efficient and beneficial for us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I mean,
or-
to the point to where if you kind of offer like your product is superior in the marketplace, as a consumer, you're going to want to spend money on the superior product that you're using day in and day out. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm against like, bad ethics and, um, you know, paying people low wages and offshore companies, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I do agree that ethics and the morals fall on the company producing that. Whereas if I'm using this iPhone day in and day out, like my belief in that is not going to inconvenience me 16 hours a day. I'm going to still buy the superior product, an iPhone.
And this is just
So
this is
I see both sides.
right.
But
This is definitely just the epitome of the heart of the discussion, which is how critical can we be of these companies, and obviously the hypocritical nature of it all. But continue that on another day. Yeah. Oh, sorry. My final point, and then we'll move on. How convenient is it also that 2020 is an election year, and these politicians, going back to the incompetence, these politicians were probably more than likely just wanting to get clips and on air, like live on air footage of them grilling these big four tech, tech CEOs, etc. That was the final point I wanted to make. So,
Interesting.
Anyway, we'll move on, guys. We'll see if Trump or whoever wins the election will bring out their inner Teddy Roosevelt and try to carry a big stick against these monopolies or William Howard Taft, whichever president was that actually broke up the monopolies. Anyway, U.S. history there. Let's really get into the meat and potatoes. That was a good warm up for our thematic theme. I said thematic theme. That's our theme of the week is health and wealth, guys. As I'm stumbling here, health and wealth. So we're gonna move into the meat and potatoes there. Mike, do you want to kick us off with your health topic for the week and just kind of fill in your audience on what's been going on with you?
Sure. Yeah. So like Garrett was saying, we all picked a little topic to talk about, and so I decided to go with health. I don't know too much about wealth compared to Brian and Garrett. Just kind of roll with the punches on that one. But health, yeah. So the topic I decided to go with was the mind and body connection. And so before I get into this, I want to make it clear that this isn't some like hippy dippy bullshit. Hipster new age. I'm sure you guys all catch my drift on what I'm going with here. But so I want to talk about how the mind and the body are just inextricably linked, and how your body feels directly affects how your mind feels, and vice versa. So and as most of you guys know, I'm in the military, and I think it's important to mention how what the military is actually doing to focus on the mind and body connection, specifically with mindfulness and breath work. Now, some of you guys may be like, "What mindfulness? Isn't that what yoga people talk about? Isn't that what your local man bun wearing dude at Whole Foods talks about?" But no, it's so mindfulness and breathwork has some legitimate science behind it. Um, so so for those of you who don't know, the what mindfulness is essentially making a concerted effort to being present in the moment, focusing on what's going on around you in the here and now, and not thinking about the future and not thinking about the past, just being in the moment. Um, and that's something that's hard to accomplish in today's fast-paced society, where we've all got smartphones distracting us um, from the present moment. We've got Netflix shows that we're watching, emails coming up, thinking, as our lives get more and more fast paced, we're always just thinking of other things rather than what's going on right in front of you. And that's not how humans evolved. We didn't evolve with those kind of distractions, and we're starting to see some real negative impacts because of that. Um, Anxiety and depression rates are on the rise, especially in younger children who have only known social media. Um, you know, it's some of the darker stuff here. Suicide rates are on the rise, not only because of the economy more recently, but because people just they don't feel as good, and so mindfulness is a tool that businesses and the military are looking at to offset that. I know more per, more applicable to what I'm talking about. The Navy itself is it's been having a problem with suicides over the past 10 years, and they're really and that's not just the Navy, but it's all the military branches as a whole. So they're trying to come up with ways to offset that. Um, I recently got trained in what's called the Warrior Toughness Program, where so all the new enlisted sailors coming through boot camp, they get exposed to this Warrior Toughness Program, and the command that I'm working at is the kind of the next phase in rolling that out because we're a training command. Um, and so what the Warrior Toughness Program it's these techniques backed by science that they've tested in special forces, and they've hired a whole lot of real smart doctors and psychologists to study these things, but it's using breath work to keep yourself in the present moment. So I've got a little activity for you guys, and for those of you listening, feel free to chime in. But so one of these techniques that I got trained up on is called the recalibration technique. And so the goal here is to slow your breathing, um, to after a while slow your heart rate and make yourself feel relaxed. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna breathe in for 6 seconds, hold for 2, and breathe out 7. And well, I'll only do it twice. I don't want this to take too long. But the goal is to do it, for however long it takes you to feel better. So, are you guys ready?
6, 2, 7.
Yep. I'll lead us off. All right. So inhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold for 2. 1, 2. Exhale for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we don't need to keep going with that. But the goal, so that was pretty unnatural, right? That's not how you normally
Yeah.
breathe. And it might have even been a little bit difficult. But the goal there is to slow the rate at which you're breathing. So one, you're more conscious of it. So it's bringing your attention to the forefront of of what you're doing, of what your body's doing. But also that slows down your heart rate, which which has some good physical benefits in just relaxing you. So that's one of there's 5 other techniques that I got trained up on in this Warrior Toughness program. But the end goal here is to keep people focused in the present moment during stressful situations. So I'm gonna overlay this another article that I was reading from the New York Times. So it's titled "The Latest in Military Strategy: Mindfulness." And so I'm not going to go through this whole article, but essentially it was just talking about all these real high level military people. I think specifically they interviewed a major general in the army, talking about what he does out in the combat zone to maintain mindfulness. So he says that he wakes up every morning, and starts off his day with he starts and ends his day with a 5-minute breathing exercise to kind of keep himself relaxed and help him plan and decompress at the beginning of and end of each day. And it also goes on to talk about how not only the United States Special Forces groups, but British Special Forces and other special forces from different nations are starting to use these mindfulness techniques to teach soldiers how to remain calm during high stress situations. They talk about how the working memory, which is like just essentially your short term memory, gets all bogged down when your brain becomes overwhelmed, and you can slow down your breathing and focus on the here and now to allow your brain to function more fluidly. Allows you to make better decisions for snipers. It allows them to take better shots to minimize unwanted casualties. So it's I think it's definitely something that we're going to start hearing a lot more about as we progress, as people, as our lives become more consumed with technology, just paying more attention to your biological self, to what's going on inside of you.
I agree too, because right there, like, so for example, I work for a tech company, and at the beginning of quarantine, so this would have been April or so, when everybody's working from home. My company actually paid for Headspace accounts for every employee. So I've messed around with it a little bit, they have a bunch of different courses you can do for meditation. I've done, I think, like 15 days of meditation or something. Something like I think I would see direct benefits with if I would start doing it more often. However, when I was going back in the office, like, I didn't want to, just sit there and start meditating in front of everybody in our flex workspace. So maybe I'll find a cool way to implement that in my work day. But it definitely was peaceful and a great way to start the morning.
Yeah, I've actually used that app. I haven't really done it in a while. I should probably get better about this since I'm the one bringing up this topic. But I know personally for myself, I've gone through little bouts of trying out those little meditation apps, and if I do it for a week or 10 days or something, I do see like tangible benefits in my state. I being able to take in more of your environment, and not bouncing around like, what's going on Twitter, what's the latest news article, what do I have you know what do I have to do next week, kind of allowing the waves crashing in your mind to settle down a little bit better is doesn't take a whole lot of time to reach that.
As the world around us gets so much faster, and as our personal worlds get so much faster, that's a really good tip to really slow things down. And I feel like us can all relate on that, having a recent experience of college life, just youth, and kind of in this transitional period that we are into, starting our careers, starting our lives, making bigger decisions having bigger impacts and consequences, and how fast things can truly move. So it's an awesome tip, Blake. I think that's definitely something I'm going to look into personally and really try to instill in my own life.
Do it, man.
Yeah, maybe you should meditate before playing COD.
Maybe I need to. That's a great idea. Great idea.
Hey, you're preaching positivity in those COD lobbies.
It's a movement. One player at a time, brother. One player at a time. Any last tips before we move on to Brian?
Not really.
Just that's great. Meditation. I like that tip. I probably will use that. In for 6, hold for 2, and then
6:27
out for 7.
The whole goal, the two things that you want to focus on: slow down your breath and be aware of your breath. If your mind starts wandering, just be like, hey, I should be focusing on my breath. Bring your attention back to the breath. Every time you do that, it's a little bicep curl for your brain, and you'll get better at it.
Hey, actually, Cameron, do you want to go next so we can just keep the health going?
Yeah, let's keep it in line with health.
On that note, I'm going to go grab another seltzer since we're talking about keeping our bodies strong.
All right, hurry back,
What do you want to do, Beast?
Yeah, one last thing about the breathing techniques and stuff is if y'all haven't heard of Wim Hof, I check him out. There's a breathing just in and of itself can do a lot for you physically. Things you wouldn't even imagine you could do. You can do with the proper breathing techniques. So check him out, WIMHOFF. And also that app Headspace. I do recommend that. Well, I guess 3 of us have used it. Have you used it, Garrett?
I haven't. I'm the lone wolf.
Yeah, maybe download it, check it out. They have at least a 10-day free thing that you can go through each day. And I think it's just like 10 minutes for 10 days.
You can even do it for
And
5.
You can even do it for 5. But yeah, I like that when I've done it. Same kind of as Blake and I guess Brian is. I've just done it on and off here and there. And I think it's a good reset for you to slow things down. But another thing that you wouldn't consider affects your health so drastically is your vitamin D levels. So it's pretty surprising how many people in our country, I've seen numbers actually as high as 70% of people in our country are vitamin D deficient. So they don't have enough vitamin D in their body, and their body's not producing enough vitamin D. So yeah, something like 70%. And one huge link to that recently, we all know COVID. COVID, people have been doing studies on the effects of vitamin D deficiency on different respiratory infections. And some of these individuals, I mean, vitamin D has been studied for a while. There's been lots and lots of studies done over the past 5 to 10 years, and studied so much so that there's been meta-analysis, which is a study of studies. So they go and look at a handful, I think it was probably a dozen or so different studies that were looking at vitamin D deficiency and the causes and effects. And the results of this meta-analysis were essentially that vitamin D insufficiency is associated with increased susceptibility to infections like acute respiratory tract infections. So that's
COVID.
yeah, exactly. Vitamin
Right.
D has been shown to decrease risk of respiratory infections and or severity of respiratory infections. So not only if you get the respiratory infection, but how severe it is, meaning how likely you might be to die. So a lot of the deaths around coronavirus, there was a study a little bit early on. This wasn't this wasn't like done in May or June. This was maybe April, based on some Asian countries, the Philippines, Indonesia, and some other places. They found a 98%, 98% of people that died of COVID were vitamin D deficient.
That's
So
crazy. That's
yeah,
insane.
Wow.
and knowing that 70% of our population is vitamin D deficient, we're just like, that's a pretty big problem that we should address. I think I haven't heard that enough. I've heard it a couple times, about your vitamins and your vitamin levels, vitamin C, and all the other ones. I've heard about that, but I haven't heard about vitamin D as much just in the mainstream, like on social media, like wash your hands, take a vitamin D supplement. Like, no, that's not it. It's wash your hands, stay 6 feet apart, put on a mask, cover up your face. That's all I've been hearing. But so elderly people have been dying a lot of coronavirus. Elderly people have an even high percentage of vitamin D deficiency. Same with obese people. So that's a big reason that the number for our country is at 70% vitamin D deficiency. Because I mean, I don't know the obese rate, but I'm sure it's probably somewhere around 70% or higher. It's probably somewhere near 85 by now.
I think it's closer
Do you
to.
know?
The last I heard, it's around 60, which is still extremely high. I don't think it's like 80, 85.
Are you sure? I feel like it's higher than that.
Regardless,
Can
mean,
you
it's
repeat that
pretty
one more
high.
time? The percentage?
I guess I just go in Walmart too often is what it is. No, but 70%
Wow.
of the US population is vitamin D deficient. So, and then obese people just have a harder problem with it. Vitamin D is fat soluble, so it just might not get to the right cells it needs to in time or at all. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just every cell has vitamin D receptors, but especially immunological cells. Um, it just helps fight off these infections. It just supports your cells and their functions. So I think that's very important. I think we touched on that about when we were talking about the outdoors. That it's just important to get outside, get some sun, just enjoy God's creation, and I think that's even more evident with this vitamin D stuff. Is you really need to get outside. I'm lucky enough, like y'all were roasting on me earlier about having pale skin. So pale skin, you produce vitamin D a little bit more efficiently. So hey, I mean, not saying I don't need to get outside,
Church.
but if the darker your skin is, I'd say the more often you need to get outside. And I think that's one thing we've seen north versus south, actually, in some of these COVID cases. New York versus Atlanta. I mean, New York's bigger, definitely, and even more compact. But when you just look at two major cities and you look at, the rates of, and I'd assume there's no studies on the rates of people getting outside New York versus Atlanta, but you know, I just say we get a little bit more sun down here in the South.
I agree.
But Cameron,
What's that?
these are big cities. More people live in big cities opposed to rural areas. But doesn't that mean that bigger cities and more urban areas are more likely to spread the virus? That this is not related to vitamin D deficiency? There's no sarcasm in my tone at all.
No, it's not just about spread rates and case numbers. It's about the death rate and how, I mean, you can get infected with COVID and not have any symptoms and be perfectly healthy but still test positive. Um, or you could be on a respirator about to die and obviously have COVID. So it's, were those people vitamin D deficient? Most likely. I mean, 98% most likely. So that's a pretty big deal, and I think we should hear about that and
Right.
repeat it more often to people around
Sure.
us. Go get blood tests, do whatever you need. I'm not too worried about it personally. I try to get outside, and like I said, I got that pale Scottish skin, so I think I'm producing it pretty efficiently. And yeah, I don't think I need a supplement, but I think a lot of people should be taking a little supplement. You can take a lot. It's funny because so I was doing my research, and one of the search lines I decided to search was Trump vitamin D. And in the height of it, he went and got tested and went and got a blood test, and um, he had taken hydroxychloroquine and he was getting on more vitamin D and vitamin C and zinc and different stuff like that. And but anyway, one of the only bad articles about vitamin D I found was from CNN. And so
Our
they were just
favorite.
using, yeah, the favorites, the unbiased news network of CNN. Anyway, it's just some of their language they were using was just off. It was just, you can tell they're out of touch in a lot of areas. You trying to use a colorful language like Trump championed hydroxychloroquine and vitamin D. Like, no, he just suggested that, it's a good thing, which every doctor would also tell you that you should check it out, check your levels, and take some supplements if you need to. But they tried to dog him and tried to say that, oh, be careful with vitamin D, you can take too much. But really, when you look at it, you got to take an exuberant amount for an ongoing time to see some of the effects that they were talking about in the article. Some of the negative effects of vitamin D toxicity at such high levels. but that's 70% of people are deficient. So you should be telling the majority of people that they should probably get on a supplement, not trying to scare them away from it. Like as it's just some Trump conspiracy that you don't need it and it's not a problem, because it definitely is.
I have a question.
What's that?
So, if you were making recommendations, which you obviously can with your medical doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would you recommend? Would you recommend people incorporate more vitamin D into their diet, especially people, or into their lifestyle, especially people who may have been exposed to coronavirus, or do you think they should inject bleach into their blood to clear out that virus?
I think the bleach. I mean, I think if you're not injecting and at least drinking a gallon of bleach every day, then you're doing it wrong.
That's what I like
And
to
on
hear.
this week's episode of Health,
A jaw just dropped to the floor. Good
Yikes.
God. I've heard of bleach shots. I haven't heard of bleach heroin. Good God.
You got to heat it up first to get it all nice and compatible with your blood in a spoon,
Yeah.
usually, and just inject it in
Yes.
Wow. Okay, well, I guess clip it to the Instagram. Heard it
Need
here
a
first.
disclaimer in here. We are not health experts. Do not take our advice. All liability is not on our shoulders.
It's on Cameron's shoulders. Anyway, so all right, real quick. Actual recommendations though, Cameron, because I am actually curious about this. Let's say, I don't know, am I vitamin D deficient? Also, if I am, what should my next course of action be? Just to wrap it up.
It's never advisable to take, drastic steps.
Oh, did we lose him?
Yeah, I think he's
Somebody
frozen
cut
up.
out.
Yeah.
I
he'll
would
probably
say from my experience with health stuff like that, I mean, granted, we are under a more scrupulous time. I don't know, scrupulous is the right word there, whatever. But exposed time with coronavirus and stuff. But to what Cameron initially said before he got cut off, like taking drastic measures and freaking out never helped anybody. So more so just, incorporating bits of what we're talking about, mindfulness, getting the body's anxiety levels down, really practicing breathing exercises, and then, maybe taking the supplements where you need it. If you don't eat vegetables quite regularly, maybe get a green supplement, just do the small little steps that can add it to your overall cumulative health, I would say, is kind of like the message here.
Yeah, I know the
You can
best
definitely go ahead.
for just in terms of like nutrition. I know the best way to get vitamins and minerals is to get it from food sources. Yeah, and supplements are a good secondary to that. So if you are trying to incorporate more vitamin D into your life, just getting out in the sun. You're, like Cameron said, your body makes it naturally. So that's going to be the most natural way for it to get into your bloodstream and start affecting your overall health. Go play some golf,
Yeah,
Garrett.
where do I
I know you're trying to work on the your chip shot. Go
Yeah.
out on the golf course some more.
You got that right, brother. Right on. All right, guys.
Dude.
Well, that was an awesome segment, Cameron. So I guess we'll wrap up the health aspect of us all. Be mindful. Get outside. Take your vitamins if you're deficient. Pretty common sense here, guys. Pretty common sense.
You asked about the implementation. I do have a important point I think I want to make.
All right, real quick, Cameron. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, you never want to be too drastic when you're making these kind of health and medical changes. So I would never suggest just to go out and buy vitamin D supplements and just start taking the maximum recommended dose or even more than that. I'd say start with going outside. If you're not going outside and not spending at least 20 minutes a day in the sun, then start there. Also food, green leafy foods, high in vitamin D. So you already know to be getting those in your diet. So if you're not, start there as well. So just the small steps. That's all I wanted to say to that. was just take some small steps. Get in the sun, 20 minutes. Bump it up. Just just get there eventually. And because it's not like you can just take a couple vitamin D supplements and then be fine. That's
Cool.
that's also not what I'm saying.
Sweet.
That was a good
Right
talk.
on.
Good
Well,
session.
that was awesome insight, Cameron. Audience, thank you all for dealing with the technical difficulties right there while we got him back. Brian, time for you to preach. Get on your podium, big
Sweet.
guy. Let's hear it.
So now we'll be shifting over to wealth, which I would say is an area that we might have more expertise in, considering me and Garrett both have business degrees. But I mean, everybody knows that's been to college. That really doesn't make a fuck. So
It doesn't
maybe
make. That
maybe
was a
some
great
of
Wrong.
this discussion.
Brian 2020. It doesn't make a.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fun. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. That was funny.
I'm gonna have to clean that up.
Going forward, let's see if this discussion kind of sparks that and some of our collective experience, because we do have work experience, which if you've ever been in a job interview, you'll know is more important than that degree. But the degree gets you in the door, so it's all kind of important. But anyways, so what I'm going to be talking about today is, so I've spoken in previous podcasts about like home ownership, basic real estate investing concepts. However, I've recently decided to switch my long-term strategy a little bit. It's going to sound like a major shift, but real estate, all the principles are pretty much the same. The asset classes just behave a little differently, and I'm going to talk about some of that here. But overall, I've decided to shift my investing strategy from multifamily, which is anything from, a 4-unit fourplex all the way up to larger apartment complexes, 20, 50, 100, 200 unit complexes. But I'm deciding to switch from multifamily to self-storage, which is it's a less popular industrial asset. So I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast has at least passed a self-storage facility, whether you're driving out in rural Canton, Georgia, or you're right in the heart of downtown Atlanta and you see a Smart Cube or one of the larger companies with their 18-story storage unit complexes. And a couple reasons why. So as you all know, I'm fresh out of college. I'm not extremely capitalized. I'm not a trust fund baby. I don't have, a 6-figure inheritance that I just got from graduating college. That would be nice. But at the same time, I do have the knowledge and was blessed with the opportunity to go to college, do finance and real estate, understand, the other underwriting perspectives, and then also build on that base knowledge with what I will say is let's call it like extracurricular knowledge. So podcasts, books, discussions, talking to people and whatnot. And I would argue I've gotten more out of that than the traditional sense, but that's neither here nor there. So going into that and some of my research within that and why I'm deciding ultimately to go and pursue ownership in self-storage facilities versus multifamily. The first point I want to make is the asset ownership breakdown. So that sounds like a bunch of big words, but it's really not. So with multifamily apartment buildings, 80% of the asset ownership, meaning the people that own and operate those apartments, is owned by large institutional investors. So think Wall Street, REITs, which is essentially think of a REIT as a stock fund for real estate. So they own a bunch of different assets and people buy a share in their REIT. So 80% of multifamily is owned by those kind of, big money corporations. Well, I don't know if corporation is the right word, but whatever. and 20% is like mom and pop, smaller investors, whatnot, smaller companies. So with that, there's implications to where a REIT can target, maybe like a 5 or 6% return, and that's great for their investors. However, that's going to drive out the small man like me who's trying to get, 10, 20, maybe even 30% if I'm killing it, cash on cash return. Cash on cash just meaning the money I bring to the table upon buying the asset over that annual year, how much I'm getting back. So say I bring 100,000 to a deal, I want 10, 20, $30,000 back to make it worth my while with all the strings and setup I have to pull to, even be at that table. Whereas a REIT, they got a ton of money, so they can just throw it at that. And, maybe they get 6,000 on that 100,000, that's fine by them. It's just their shareholders, that they're catering to.
Yeah.
So that point's really interesting. Another one, I kind of had an epiphany, and this is when I just kind of made the decision. So what do y'all think is the biggest headache in terms of owning and operating like an asset, like a multifamily apartment building?
I know exactly where you're going with this. I'm going to let y'all guess.
I would guess the tenants and actually like maintaining that property.
Bingo.
This is so Brian it hurts. This is so Brian it hurts. But keep going.
Oh, you're getting the weeds, and then you'll get the conversational at the end. But yeah, dealing with people. Like I was thinking, so when I go in maybe 2-3 years to get the next acquisition, I was originally targeting anywhere between like a 4 and 8 unit apartment building, doing all the underwriting stuff like that. And then I was just like, man, dealing with tenants, not fun. And then on my podcast, I heard about self-storage. And when you think about it, so if you have a multifamily apartment building, you're going to have people in there. I mean, they're living there. So, I guess when they're not at work, they're probably there. So at least 50, 60% of the time. And so that building's going to get, wear and tear. It's going to be way expedited. And if you want to, the tenant moves out, you got to fix all that crap to get the next one in, or else your rent levels are going to drop. Whereas self-storage, I mean, people are probably on site maybe 10% of the time. It's normally an industrial, warehouse type thing. So people don't really give a shit if there's dents in the walls, Granted, it doesn't need to be a decrepit facility, but like, it's had an epiphany. It's like, wow, I can, get maybe the same, if not better returns there and not have to deal with people. So I was like, that sounds pretty good to me. Then my last point, and I swear I'll pull myself out of the weeds of analysis, but so what do y'all think like the average rent would be? I kind of just threw $1,000 on there, right?
Oh,
like depending on any city.
Yeah, that's where
just
I'd go
for me
baseline.
personally.
Yeah,
For an example here, my storage unit out in Oxford that has like half of my shit in it right now, I'm paying
we're talking
77
apartments rent.
Oh, you're talking about apartment rent. Oh, my bad.
Yep.
Yeah, average rent, depending on the area. Cities, urban, it's going to be $1,000 a month. Rural, maybe 600, 800.
Right. And to what you were getting at, the average rent for a storage unit, I mean, you're paying 77. I just threw 100 on there just to keep the, numbers the same. It's going to be like a way lower percentage than that. So, maybe let's call it $100. So say I come in and I buy an underperforming facility that maybe they're charging like 50 or 60 a unit, and the street rate right now is going to like 80 or 90, maybe 100, depends on the market again. But increasing that value, say I went from 80 or from 60 to 80, that's $20, 20 over 60, 33% increase. That's way easier to do. And commercial real estate is all derived on the underwriting value of how much you're charging. So that 33% increase is huge. Whereas say I wanted to increase my $1,000 rent 33%, that's hefty, And that's going to cause people to be like, oh, maybe I should go find a new apartment. Maybe I can't afford this. Whereas the average Joe that rents a storage unit is like, shit, it's $80 now. Oh, I didn't even know what I was paying the last 2 years anyways. Screw it. I'm not going to move all my shit to some other facility. So the economies of scale are just, it's way better in my personal opinion. And I know I kind of got in the weeds there, so I'll turn it over for discussion and what y'all think, because I know, Blake, you're closing on your house here soon. Cameron, you've sourced deals for multiple investors back in your wholesaling days. And then Garrett, you're also, I mean, with your uncle being a lifetime real estate investor, and then also your interest in it, I think it's kind of a good discussion piece.
Yeah, real quick, I'm going to start off with 2 questions. First off, what is a barrier to entry into the storage units? I know you've mentioned in the past that it's pretty predominantly on pop, like from a much higher percentage there than multifamily. But what would be like a barrier to entry as far as getting into the storage wars?
Right. And so I meant to include that. So the asset ownership breakdown, multifamily, it's 80% institutional, 20% mom and pop. Those are flipped in storage units. That's why the barriers to entry and the returns are going to be, barriers to entries are lower, the returns are going to be higher. But in terms of how to get into it, money, obviously, it's commercial real estate, it's not cheap. And then 2 is systems and automation, which is where like the technology side of my brain really resonates with this. Think about it. You got a gate code, you got automatic locks, and depending on the facility, you might not even need an on-ground personnel there to operate it. So that's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. I do have a second question if no one else has anything. So, what do you underperforming store? This is what I don't understand fully, and I want you to kind of pick on this. An underperforming storage unit, in my mind, has to do with it's in a bad area, it's too expensive, or maybe it's bad ownership. Maybe a couple of those things off the top of my head. How do you improve an underperforming storage unit facility?
So, essentially, you get in there, and then you kind of have a hunch off of when you're going through due diligence and stuff, and you're targeting properties, because you can get into developing storage units, but I don't want to be a developer. There's a lot of risk in that. So you assess the market you want to invest in first, and then you kind of get a ballpark of what this, I said street rate earlier. That's essentially the market rate per square foot of a storage unit. So they normally do it by square foot. So say it's 80 cents and you have a 10 by 10. So 100 units at 80 cents a square foot, or 100 square feet at 80 cents. That'd be $80 a month. So that's kind of how the numbers are broken down, and you assess the street rate. You can call in, be like, hey, I'm Jim Bob trying to get a storage unit out here in Canton, just moved in. What is the rate going? And they do fluctuate day by day, but like that's the very basic part of how you can get kind of an idea. A lot of it is aesthetic. So if you drive by there, it looks like it hasn't been touched up in 20 years. Odds are you're probably dealing with an owner that's a little older, doesn't really give a shit about improving the facility. He's owned it for 20 years. It's paid off. It's cash flowing. He got it for $100,000 back in 1980. Some story like that. And then really just doing your research and diving into it.
Cool, man.
That's how you would identify that.
Yeah. I think
That's
you
awesome.
would. I think what you were saying about the mom and pop versus institutionalized ownership plays a big part of that. You're more likely to find a good opportunity if it's just a mom and pop owner versus an institutional owner who's squeezing every dollar out of it they can, and they have a team working on how to do that. If it's just a mom and pop, they, like you said, they might have it already paid off, and they're not too worried, and they like just making their renters happy or their occupiers happy, and they just keep the price low, don't fix the place up. But you come in,
see that money every month.
Yeah, they see the money every month. You come in, you fix the place up a little bit. You spend maybe they're not spending any on marketing either. Like you're saying, what it looks like from the. We've all driven past a storage unit, so maybe you think of that when you're like, I need to get a storage unit. But if you don't really notice some crappy little building off to the side, that's a storage place, you might not think of it when you need to go get one. But if it looks nice, there's a nice sign, there's good marketing maybe out there, then the rates, there's more demand, then the rates can go up. So, but it all goes back to that: who owns it? Is it more institutionally owned, or a mom and pop that you might be able to find a good deal off of? Make them happy, give them all the money they want from it, and still be able to, still have it be a good opportunity where you can make money off it.
Yeah.
I definitely have one more question, and not to bore anyone to death here other than Brian and I, but I am very curious in this. I think it's a great idea. So, speaking from my own experience, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to pick out a storage unit. There's only one deciding factor for me. One thing matters. How close is
Location.
it to where I'm trying to go? If it's
right.
What, like Cameron, like you said, you could have a nice storage unit that's fixed up. Shit, my computer could die at any second. You could have a nice storage unit that's fixed up, that is nice, it's marketed to me, and but if it's 15 minutes out of the way compared to Joe Blow's storage unit facility that's 2 minutes out of the way, there's no nominal 30% increase in rates or decrease in rates are going to save me from wanting to go to that one opposed to the one that's closer. So that's a challenge that I see in my head moving forward. Brian, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, how big do you think the market is for any given storage unit when you're checking and underwriting stuff to drive comps?
What's the metric for that?
Like mileage.
Yeah, distance.
From where the facility is located, how far out are you looking to establish a basis for what the price should be? What do you think that number is?
20 miles.
3. That's how small and granular it gets when you're setting those prices.
Wow.
So it's pretty interesting. 3 to 5 miles. Yeah.
Interesting. Guys, any last thoughts? Any questions or anything? Brian did a really good job of kind of laying it all out there and giving us a good insight. I think it's a great idea. Especially the points that you bring up about, minimal risk. Obviously you have monetary risk, but minimal risk as far as like, people come in, they it's a need. You provide a need, storage, and that's it. Any other questions or thoughts?
I think it's an interesting route to go. I know whenever I think of real estate, I think of either residential or commercial real estate, such as like office spaces and things like that. I remember you and I talked about this a little while ago, Brian, and it's a unique idea. And it makes sense listening to you talk about it. With definitely a lower cost to entering that market. I think it's a unique way to get into the real estate world.
Yeah, but it sucks, and nobody listening should, try to come and look into it because, it's probably not that good. So
I think everyone listening should do exactly what we say. They should follow all of our advice and agree with it, with all of our
clip
opinions.
That. I think we might need to
people
clip
that live in Montana. It's like, yeah, no, it actually sucks. Don't come up here.
Yeah.
Guys, how are we doing? Everyone good? This has been a long one. Everyone feeling good?
Yeah. I think we're having some great discussions. Definitely.
Man, do we need to do a 627 real quick?
What does that mean?
627.
Oh,
come on, Blake.
I'm so stupid.
Come on, teacher.
Let's do a 627 for
it's called a recalibrate,
Garrett.
That's the recalibrate exercise. All right, I'll lead us off. All right, here we go.
7.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
In for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, I messed up.
6. Hold for 2. 1, 2. Out for 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I feel better.
All right, Garrett, drive us home with our wealth discussion. Apparently, you are rich. So let's do it.
Garrett,
I'm loaded.
I'm gonna-
BFT's got me loaded.
This is going to be a great discussion. We were talking about this yesterday. I think a lot of us are going to not resonate per se, but have a lot of opinions on it, as well as our listeners. I think this is an important thing to talk about, especially in today's trying times.
Wow, Blake's making me sweat from my hands right here. Pressure is on. All right, guys. Yeah, I got one that kind of hits a little bit close to home. You know, earlier we talked a lot about big congressional Senate hearings, big tech, etc. There was another point of contention and a lot of news this last week as well. It has to do with unemployment. So in case you guys do not know, the unemployment benefits that have been going on for the last few months related to COVID ran out on Friday. Okay, so people who have filed for unemployment, there have been 18 million people who have filed for unemployment. The U.S. right now, there's an additional 12 million who are receiving other unemployment benefits, but the primary people, the 18 million, have been receiving $600 a week over the last few months. That money ran out on Friday. So the Senate and Congress as a whole has been working on trying to refill the money, right? So obviously we're still in the midst of the crisis, and there's still people not at work, and Congress is trying to decide what should we do, okay? And just a little bit more information. P came back and they said, well, let's do $200 a week. Let's keep it going for the next 2 months, September. And the Democrats have come back and said, let's do $600 a week. Let's keep it going all the way until 2021. That's a major point of contention.
Christ.
Yes, absolutely.
Raise taxes.
Just stomp the economy into a pulp.
100%. Inflation rates are up. Like a lot. There's a lot of negative impacts that could bring. So, obviously that's going on right now. But what's up, Blake?
I'm just pointing at Tux. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So you're good, man. So keep that in mind, guys. That's a major point of contention right now. But I wanted to bring this to you guys, to the audience. I want to have this discussion with you. I think there's a huge pandemic that's not being talked about right now in our country that we're dealing with, and it's the small business pandemic. Can y'all hear me still?
Yeah,
You're cutting out a little bit, but you good.
You're
Small business pandemic.
Yeah, maybe pandemic's not the right word, but we have a small business crisis in our country right now, guys. So since the beginning of the pandemic, obviously we remember back in the quarantine, many businesses were completely shut down, not allowed to open their doors as we quarantined to try to get rid of the virus. And it was supposed to be a short-term thing. Now it's become a long-term thing. This has been something that has drug on for months, right? So we're at a state right now where local governments, state governments, and the federal government is trying to decide what's the right course of action going forward. How are we going to, provide for the people who are in need, keep them from losing everything, giving them unemployment funds, etc. But how do we balance that with keeping the economy open and not getting people sick and trying to keep people healthy, etc. Right? So here's my 10,000 foot worldview on this. Back to the small business crisis. Been in the state of Georgia alone, I'll pull up the numbers real quick. There's been over 1,500 small businesses in the state of Georgia alone who have faltered in the during the quarantine. Been 1,600 local businesses that have been closed since March 1st. I'm looking at the Wall Street Journal for these numbers right now. If you guys want to go look at the article, we can post it in the link. We have 47% of small businesses in the state of Georgia who are at risk of default this year, which is right below the national average. Just for comparison's sake, in California, which has been a stay-at-home mandate over the last few months, or however long, has 12,205 small businesses that have been closed between March 1 and July 25th. So this is a major crisis, guys, and the numbers are just across the country. And obviously, we talked about big tech. Big tech's doing well. Big tech is fine, right? Numbers have been up. NASDAQ is up, which is the index that guides the stocks. Big companies are good, but what about the small business that your family owns? about the small company around the corner that you like to get a cheeseburger at? What about the bar down the street that you and your buddies go to on a Friday night to have a good time? What about your college town, the college town that relies on college students being around? Now they're not allowed to come back. What about all these various people? And the most important thing that I want you guys to really capture there is what about the company that you work for? Company that is not a major corporation that you work for, that is locally owned and that's locally funded. People are faltering. Obviously, we had the PPP fund that came in, but that money's running out as well, right? So, guys, I just wanted just to, bring this to your attention. I don't have any major solution here. I do want to, I will say this. Here's my thought process here. As small businesses falter and fall apart, people lose their jobs, that obviously increases unemployment and the economy falters as well, okay? So my proposal is this, right? Take the reins off. Government, take the reins off. Okay? These companies, these businesses that are not allowed to be open right now during the quarantine, let them open. The doors open, right? 100%. We all understand the risk. We all understand the risks right now that are going on in our country. We understand that there's a pandemic. We understand that, we're all very cognizant of it. But so are the businesses, so are the people who work for them. You can continue to pump money into unemployment, but paying people more than what they would make on a weekly basis, unemployment, is not going to incentivize them to come back to work and provide for their families and provide a service to their country. It's not. It's going to encourage them to stay home, right? And that's just not good for what we have here. My recommendation is, let's take the reins off of these small businesses. Let's let them open. Let's let them install their own health guidances and their own rules. Decide for themselves what they think is best, because at the end of the day, if they are doing is not right, it's not good, then people are not going to pay them money. People are not going to show up. If they don't feel like they're safe, they're not going to show up. Let them decide for themselves. Give them individual responsibility and enable them, not disable them, so that they can provide for their employees and provide for their own family. These people, the backbone of our country is built upon the local and small businesses, what they offer, jobs they create, etc. So I'll step off my soapbox here and let you guys hit me with some rebuttal, hit me with some discussion.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that thing you said there. Let the government take the reins off. So let's think of what America is, and we've all heard the term the American dream. That's what this country was founded upon. Maximizing freedom. That's why people all around the world want to come to America to have the opportunity to succeed. And you're not going to have your average Joe, moving here from Europe, or coming up from some other country, isn't going to succeed when the only people succeeding are these massive corporations who are well established. It's going to be someone who starts their own business. It's going to be someone who lives in a community. Starts up a shop, selling whatever you can think of, selling flowers, selling food, providing some sort of service or good that community needs. The average person relies and benefits on small businesses the most, and that's the best way to maximize happiness, for one, and to maximize your own personal wealth, I believe. Sorry, my cat is making a whole lot of noise here.
No, you're good.
And so if we gotta take a hard look at what's going on right now. Do a real in-depth cost benefit analysis, and just look and see what's going to maximize the what's going to minimize the suffering, and what's going to maximize people's future in the long term. We kind of spoke on this last episode, talking about we're all scared of that immediate threat, that short term threat of getting coronavirus, and having a loved one or yourself die from the coronavirus. But 5 years down the line, what's our future going to look like if we we destroyed the economy and people's freedom to protect ourselves from that short-term threat. So if and you also gotta ask the question. We've been in this lockdown, this quarantine for since March, however many months that's been so far, and it doesn't seem like we're making a dent in coronavirus cases. It doesn't seem like we're slowing down the spread at all. So we got to look at it and be like, all right, obviously this lockdown's not doing what it's supposed to do. We got to start opening things back up and let nature take its course. Some people are going to get sick. That's just the way life goes. You drive your car, you get in a car accident. You go out to Walmart, you catch some sickness, and nature takes its course from there. But yeah, I think we need to stop this overarching control over people's individual freedoms, and
That's it.
just let people
Amen.
do what they want.
That's it right there, dude. It's all about the control over people's individual freedoms, and that's really the main point here that I want to drive home. And we kind of talked about this earlier. Government is not always the answer. Oh, seriously? Yeah, government is not always the answer. Obviously, Donald Trump is the president of the United States, but if you wanted me, and I voted for him, and vote for him again in 2020, but if you wanted me to say that I trust him to make the decisions that better my life, you wanted me to put that responsibility on him? Hell no. Hell no. He doesn't know shit about me. My own liberties, my own life should be governed by myself, not my local, state, or federal government, right? There's a thing here that we're kind of losing in the midst of all this, and it's called individual responsibility, accountability, taking ownership over your own life, taking ownership over your responsibilities, right? So, like Blake mentioned, we accept risk every day when we walk out of our front door into the world. Obviously, if there's situations where we shouldn't go outside, if there's crisis, then we should be more cautious of that. Whether we're sickly, whether we could easily become sickly. All I'm saying here regarding small businesses is just giving them the option, the individual responsibility to decide for themselves to open and not be forced to close by the government. And obviously, these people, these small business, local people who have so much money and risk into starting a company, and government of all people is shutting them down, right, and forcing them to fall. The reins off. Let's just get back on track. The easiest way to take care of 18 million people who are unemployed is not giving them $600 a week. It's not giving them $200 a week. Giving them a job, giving them purpose, giving them something to work towards every day, giving them something to do 5 days a week, 6 days a week, etc. To be able to provide for not only their families but also for each other, for the country, for their people in their community. That's my take. Y'all know where I stand. Oh, just a little side note here. In California earlier. California has been dealing with a large amount of fraudulent claims for unemployment. People basically who are either not actually unemployed, or they have the option to come back to work, or etc. They're flooding the state unemployment backlog with fraudulent claims to collect that $600 or whatever check. And funny enough, this is just very ironic. Guess who's hiring California citizens? Guess who's hiring?
Amazon.
A California State Unemployment Office to deal with all these fraudulent claims and backlogs.
Oh my
God. So, guys, listen, there's in another little fact for you. I read this today on, I think it was ZipRecruiter. Don't quote me on that, but online job ads have steadily increased 60% from May to June this year. Jobs are out there, people. I'm looking for a job right now. I'm trying to figure out what my next move is, and there's a ton of options out there, right? Lucky because I have a little bit of time on my hand to decide what my next move is, but there are opportunities out there to be had. So I'm collecting the $600 check. If you can, look for jobs, and government take the reins off of small business people around the country. Let them take individual responsibility for their own business, for their own employees, And I trust in the American people and the American way, the American dream, that they will make the right decision.
One thing I just want to add real quick, and we can move on. It's never a good idea to take money from the government. The government, there's two ways you get money from the government. One, so the government makes their money in taxes, right? Meaning that they're taking money from the American people, and taxes are necessary to a certain degree. We're all part of a community. We should all pitch in a little bit to fund services like the fire department or roads or things that we all use as an American community. So the government gets their money through taxes. They don't generate money because they don't provide, they don't make anything. They don't, they have their only source of income, of revenue, if you want to put it that way, is through taxes. And so there's two ways that you're going to get government from the money. It's either taken from one person and given to another person. It's a transitive tax. And to some degree, sure. Yeah, like people who are super wealthy, help out the lesser man. But the next way, and the most harmful way, and the way that we've been seeing most of this money come from since the start of the pandemic, is through printing money. So the Fed, our national bank, prints money, and they're not part of the government, but they're tied to the government, and so they print American currency. And so what the government's been doing to send out that $1,200 check that you guys all got to pay for these employment benefits is to just print more money. They're
Right.
just and that's. You just can't make more money and expect its value to stay the same. That's how inflation comes about. And so if you just have this unlimited increase in printing money, that's going to cause some massive damage down the line. And that's kind of where I'll leave it. We're seeing a massive increase in the amount of money that's being printed, and that's going to hurt people real bad in the long run.
100%. Have you ever thought about what's going to be the consequences for these $1,200 checks that we keep getting?
Yeah, they're not good thoughts. Those aren't good wonders.
Real quick, I want to pull up.
But it's free money. What do you mean?
Hold on, guys, I know we're getting close to the end, but I want to pull up one fact. Numbers real quick.
And then we'll drive it home and
I
I
got a point to say about the small businesses, just as a quick little stand against the government, which is where I'm pretty much gonna be most of the time. But we the people should get them to pull back the reins. I mean, I take off the reins, like you were saying. But I think we as individuals, we as men and women, shouldn't be letting the government put the reins on us in the first place. If the city, if whatever, the state, the stay-at-home orders, BS. I go wherever I need to go. The mask orders that might be implemented, that have been implemented in cities, I'll put whatever on my face I feel like I need to put on my face. So don't be afraid of the government. Is one of them. I mean, I'm gonna go down that road a lot, because I'm about not letting them put the reins on you, instead of asking and pleading for them to take them off.
That's where the power of the vote comes in. Voting local impacts you more than the federal people up at the top.
Yeah, locality, like
so
doing more things local, supporting your local businesses, these small businesses that are hurting the most. Amazon's not hurting, Facebook isn't hurting, Google's not hurting. Support local businesses. Go out of your way to try and support local businesses.
Absolutely. You nailed it. The number real quick, number I wanted to show to you guys, just kind of tie us off. So going back to the debt versus, whatever conversation. So our current U.S. national debt clock has us at about $26 trillion. Okay.
Jesus.
You want to know what our U.S. GDP, our gross domestic product, is for 2018?
I'm gonna go
1 or
with
2 trillion?
4.2%.
$21 trillion for 2018.
Wait,
Right. So
yeah.
quick analysis there is, wait a second. Our national debt is more than our yearly economic input, right? Good. Not good.
What's that term? Never mind. It's
upside down.
Yeah.
there's some
they're
economics
running
term
out
for
of
that.
money.
I don't remember.
They're running out of options. They're running out of money. They're not going to be able to pay the pensions, defund the police so they don't have to pay the pensions. That's what they're going for.
Pretty much. But guys, I feel like we had a really good discussion today. Talking to my co-host here, audience. Really hope that you guys enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed the thematic topic today. As my dog walks in, we hope you enjoyed the topic today, health and wealth. If you guys like the theme of the week, we'll continue to do that going forward. But anyway, we had some good discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We're about to sign off. Cameron's bringing up the 420. Okay. Hey, who had the most beers here out of anyone on the podcast during this?
Brian. It was probably Brian.
Not
I had 2 as well.
Okay, so we all went too deep. Right on. So if you guys want to see us go, deeper beer count, please let us know and we'll just really pound. But appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Appreciate you guys sticking around for the marathon. We got Cameron Campbell, we got Blake Manzer, we got the Brian Eduardo, and signing off here is Garrett Lusk.